Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, if you have locks or you're always rocking protective styles, you already know that keeping your scalp truly clean and balanced is an absolute necessity. But let's be honest, historically, the methods we've used to get there have been, well, kind of chaotic. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we are exploring the fascinating evolution of professional scalp care for locks, and we're specifically looking at how we're finally moving away from those exhausting, messy home remedies and stepping into a structured professional standard of care.
Right. So if you've ever tried a traditional DIY apple cider vinegar detox, the classic ACV soak, you know firsthand that it is a notoriously messy, time-consuming process that essentially turns you into a mad scientist. For years, the standard advice for getting rid of deep buildup from locks was literally to head to your kitchen, grab a box of raw baking soda, a bottle of vinegar, and just hope for the best. We're talking about totally guessing the ratios, dealing with this awful gritty residue that just will not wash out, and leaving your bathroom sink an absolute disaster zone. We have all been there, and frankly, if you're frustrated by that process, your frustration is totally valid.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with Section 1, the traditional DIY struggle. Then we'll move into submersion versus targeted prep, followed by hydration over intense dryness, banishing mildew and odor, and finally we'll wrap up with the professional scalp system. Okay, Section 1, the traditional DIY struggle. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it perfectly captures the literal pain points we used to accept as normal. Just think about the actual mechanics of a DIY ACV soak for a second. First, you have to fill up a massive sink or some giant basin with warm water. Then you mix in your raw baking soda and vinegar. And then comes the hardest part. You have to physically lean over that basin. If you have done this, you know exactly how uncomfortable it is. You are dealing with intense neck strain, awkwardly positioning yourself over a porcelain sink, trying your hardest not to splash acidic water all over the floor, all while trying to squeeze murky, dirty water through your heavy hair. It's practically an Olympic sport. And the kicker? You aren't just holding that pose for a minute or two. No way. You are submerged in that awkward, completely uncomfortable position for 10 to 20 minutes. Imagine that, 10 to 20 minutes of continuous neck strain, just massaging dirty water back into your locks. When you really think about your time, your physical comfort, and just the overall experience, it's exhausting. Honestly, it's no wonder so many people put off detoxing their locks for as long as humanly possible. Which brings us to Section 2, submersion versus targeted prep. This is where we see a huge pivot in how we handle things. So let's compare these two approaches side by side. On the one hand, we have the old way, messy submersion. You're basically dunking your entire head and soaking all of your hair just to clean your scalp. But logically, with locks and protective styles, where does all that stubborn buildup actually sit? It's trapped right there at the roots, right on the skin. On the flip side, we have the modern professional method, specifically using the ToxiTress EXT Mineral Cleanse Clay Mask. Instead of soaking the entire length of your hair like a giant sponge, you apply the purifying treatment directly to the scalp and roots. It is fundamentally more effective because it directly targets the actual problem area, entirely avoiding the collateral damage of a full head soak. And you've got to see how beautifully simple this process is. Step 1, you just mix the powder with water. Step 2, apply it directly to your scalp. Step 3, you let it sit comfortably for 10 to 15 minutes. And step 4, rinse. That is the whole shebang. There is no basin. There is absolutely zero neck strain. There is no dunking. You can literally walk around your house, read a book, grab a cup of coffee while the mask does all the heavy lifting. This really proves just how much of an upgrade the modern professional method is, right? It just completely removes all the guesswork and physical discomfort from the equation. Moving on to Section 3, hydration over intense dryness. Let's talk about moisture, because this is huge. I really want you to process this number. 1 to 3. Because raw baking soda and apple cider vinegar are highly stripping, a traditional DIY soak should realistically only be done 1 to 3 times a year. Doing it any more frequently than that is going to severely dry out your hair and your scalp. And, that is a massive limitation. If your scalp feels heavy or itchy after, say, a month, well, you're kind of out of luck with the old method, because doing another raw ACV soak that soon could cause some severe dryness and damage. And this is exactly where the science of professional formulation steps in to save the day. The modern approach utilizes something called a mineral detox complex. This is a super carefully crafted blend of bentonite, kaolin, and activated charcoal. And what makes this so brilliant is how it actually works. These ingredients naturally bind to and lift away impurities, toxins, and product buildup, like a magnet, but they do it gently. They don't aggressively dry out the skin the way raw baking soda does. So what you're getting is a true purification process, not a harsh stripping process. So the crucial point is this. Because the mineral detox complex is so gentle, it completely shatters that old 1 to 3 times a year rule. This system is designed to be totally safe to use before every single install. That means every 3 to 4 weeks, or literally whenever your scalp is begging for a reset. And it's backed up by the lightweight, nourishing Purify Oil Elixir, which perfectly replenishes the scalp post-cleanse. You no longer have to make this impossible choice between a clean scalp and moisturized hair. It safely and easily becomes a regular, stress-free part of your routine. Section 4. Banishing mildew and odor. We definitely need to talk about the dangers of trapped moisture. So when you submerge dreadlocks or heavily braided hair in a giant basin of water, you are essentially sinking a highly absorbent sponge. The hair gets completely 100% waterlogged. And as we see on the old method's side, if you do not dry that hair perfectly afterward, which, let's be real, is incredibly hard to do, you run a massive risk of trapping moisture deep inside the lock. And that trapped moisture, it quickly leads to mildew and those dreaded damp, sour odors. Nobody wants that. But look at the genius innovation on the modern side. To capture all those amazing pH-balancing benefits of apple cider vinegar without the awful liquid mess, ToxiTress developed the Restore Botanical Infusion. This uses a dry apple cider vinegar powder, which is beautifully blended with green tea and chamomile to calm the scalp. So you get all the active benefits of the ACV, but because it's a targeted application, you avoid waterlogging your locks entirely. It is such a smart workaround to a really common problem. Plus, the professional experience doesn't just stop at preventing mildew, it elevates the entire sensory experience. The ritual is finished off with Velvet Clean, which is this premium scent mist formulated with a very specific scent architecture. We are talking gorgeous notes of orange, lavender, vanilla, and sandalwood. This isn't just some generic perfume you spray on. It is specifically formulated to mask any trapped odors and leave your hair smelling, frankly, expensive. It takes what used to be a very clinical, smelly detox and transforms it into a luxury sensory experience. And finally, Section 5, the professional scalp system. Let's bring this all together. The ultimate value proposition of this whole evolution comes down to this: zero guesswork, zero kitchen mess, and a professional-grade scalp prep experience right in your own home. Whether you're using the Install Survival Kit or the Complete Scalp Prep Kit, absolutely everything comes beautifully packaged. You get perfectly portioned formulas, super clear step-by-step instruction cards, and reusable mixing tools. There's no more wondering if you poured a little too much vinegar. There are no more frantic mid-wash extra trips to the store for clarifying shampoos just to wash out the grit. It is a true professional-grade experience engineered specifically for the unique needs of locks and protective styles. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why the professional standard is completely taking over. Just take a look at this summary. The ToxiTress system just wins in every single category. For application, we move from that messy submersion to a highly targeted root mask. For frequency, instead of being limited to just 1 to 3 times a year because you're terrified of damage, you can safely use it every 3 to 4 weeks. For odor control, we totally eliminate that high mildew risk and replace it with a premium Velvet Clean scent. And for convenience, we happily trade all that frustrating kitchen guesswork for perfectly pre-portioned kits. It is a total paradigm shift in efficiency and hair health. Which leaves us with this final thought for you to consider as we wrap up this explainer. Are you ready to leave the kitchen chemistry behind and finally treat your locks like a luxury? The science is definitely here, the formulations have been perfected, and that messy, back-breaking basin is officially a thing of the past. It's time to upgrade your routine and give your scalp the damage-free, optimized care it actually deserves. Thank you so much for joining me as we explored this fascinating evolution in scalp care, and I'll catch you in the next one.